Live and all right. It's not 8 o'clock yet, but all right, get ready for the music.
Are you going to tell me when to start it?
Yeah. Go ahead and start it, man.
An American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up.
It's time to join Clay and Huck for 1 hour of educational news and conversation. They will discuss current events that you are not going to hear on the mainstream media. The left wants to silence our free speech and take away our liberties. Clay and Huck want to open up the lines of communication and allow you, our listeners, to speak about what America wants. Call Clay and Huck for open discussions at 504-556-9696, or you can reach them at libertyorlockdown.live. Now let's go live and direct to Clay and Huck for Liberty or Lockdown.
Welcome to Liberty or Lockdown, Washington, D.C. edition from the beautiful city, our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. It's been a pleasure being here, and I am Clay.
And I'm Huck.
And I'm Dave.
And today we have a great show for you guys. We got a lot ready to go for you guys. We have a down-packed show, and Huck's got some things she wants to talk to you about, and let's get right to it.
All right. So today we went out and did a few interviews out there where they were had laid her Ruth Bader Ginsburg to rest for a viewing.
Ding dong, the witch is this, the wicked witch, the witch, oh witch.
We keep telling them to stop doing that. Right?
I'm bad.
Does everybody know who Ruth Bader Ginsburg was?
Justice Supreme Court, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Having trouble saying her name, the tongue twister. Anyway, so we went out there and we did some interviews, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and we were careful because we know that everybody's paying their respect. And so it was interesting that some of the people were using the McConnell rule as an excuse as to why President Trump should wait to nominate his next Justice Supreme Court, right? What are your thoughts? Should we wait or should we?
No, I don't think he should wait for the simple fact that it's his constitutional duty. Article 2, Section 2, Clause 2 of the United States Constitution, known as the Appointment Clause, empowers the president to nominate and, with the confirmation, advise, and consent of the United States Senate, and appoint public officials, including Justice of the Supreme Court. The clause is one example of the system's checks and balances inherited into the Constitution. There's nothing in the Constitution that says he should wait. Nothing. So why should he wait? You know, I mean, it's because that's his job. It's his constitutional duty as the President of the United States.
If there's somebody out there that's been living under a rock, you may say, what is all of this stuff about? Ruth Bader Ginsburg, one of the 9 justices on the Supreme Court, died, and the presidential election is only about 6 weeks away. And so some people say, no, President Trump should not nominate anybody because this is too close to the presidential election. So the term, the McDonnell rule, has been brought up before, and that's what Martha's talking about, saying you shouldn't nominate.
Yeah, right. There's no such thing as a McDonnell rule. They made that up. It's disinformation, and it's actually made out of it's not in context with what's really going on, correct?
Yeah, well, Mitch McConnell didn't make the rule. It's just a statement he made.
Yeah, well, they're calling it the McConnell rule as if he made a rule.
Right.
And that's incorrect as well.
Right.
Right? So we have a little clipping for you. I want y'all to listen to this. This is from your favorite president.
Oh, yes.
No one gets away with anything. When there's a vacancy on the Supreme Court, the President of the United States is to nominate someone. The Senate is to consider that nomination. And either they disapprove of that nominee or that nominee is elevated to the Supreme Court. Historically, this has not been viewed as a question. There's no unwritten law that says that it can only be done on off years. That's not in the constitutional text. I'm amused when I hear people who claim to be strict interpreters of the Constitution suddenly reading into it a whole series of provisions that are not there. There is more than enough time for the Senate to consider a thoughtful way the record of a nominee that I present and to make a decision. I have fulfilled my constitutional duty. Now it's time for the Senate to do theirs. Presidents do not stop working the final year of their term. Neither should a senator. The first objective.
There you have it.
Exactly. So, but you know, this is the whole thing with the liberals is it only, the rules apply to them when it benefits them. When it doesn't benefit them, it doesn't apply to them.
Yeah, it's amazing that they want to scream hypocrisy, that Trump is being a hypocrite for going ahead and nominating a Justice Supreme, but
Right.
he's not. He's within his constitutional rights
And duties.
Correct.
and duties. That's correct. It is his duty
Exactly.
to appoint
That's
a
it.
Justice Supreme. He is appointing one.
Just because he's up for re-election in about 6 weeks, that don't mean his job is over. See, the liberals think, oh, Trump's on his way out, he shouldn't do anything. And, you know, we go by, over the years, we've gone by the lame duck session during and between the presidential election. They call it the lame duck session, that nothing gets passed. And it shouldn't be that way. They're sworn, they actually took an oath of office to uphold the Constitution and do their job to the day they leave office or die, period. There is no, okay, well, I'm going to lose the election, so I still got 3 months, I'm going to do nothing because I'm out on the way. No, it don't work that way. You do your job till it's over.
That's right.
Otherwise, hey, the next 3 months, they shouldn't get a paycheck. So if you don't want to do your job for the next 3 months, then guess what? Then you shouldn't get paid. The citizens should say, okay, we're not paying.
So let's talk about the McConnell rule that they keep on using. And like I was saying, we had interviewed a few people today, and you know, this is what they believe, because this is what the media has fed the people. And we have that interview too. If I would have had this information then I would have been able to, you know, straighten up this disinformation. So it's not called the McConnell rule, by the way. And this is why. In 2016, McConnell would not consider Obama's nominee when there was a vacancy during the election. Now he will consider it. So they're saying, the left is saying, well, he's a hypocrite. We're a hypocrite. Because he wouldn't consider it in 2016, but he's considering it in 2020. So corporate media and the liberals are pushing out this disinformation about the McConnell rule, okay? But if you look back to the 1800s, the justices do not get confirmed when the presidency and the Senate are held by two different parties. So there's only been one case that's known.
Right.
So you can go back and research this yourself. There's no other party where it's been a Republican. If it could be done now, because the two parties are the same, the president is a Republican and the Senate is a Republican majority. It's not that we're saying that we can't be ruling in bipartisan ways, because we can. Right. But what they're saying is that it's never been done in history except for one time.
Right. Well, I will say we need to break history, and this is the thing. Their job, rather they're going to vote for him in, it's due process. And everybody is deserved due process. And as much as I do not like Obama, I think Mitch McConnell was wrong for not giving due process. They didn't have to vote for the nominee. They should have just allowed the due process to take place. As that period. You know, I had a situation with me where I went to a council meeting, and I didn't care if they denied the vote. I just asked for the vote to be brought to the council floor. And this is the same way and the same thing is Mitch McConnell should have brought it to the floor. Rather, the Republicans voted it down. At the end of the day, they should have voted it down. And so at that point, I think, this is just my opinion here, that the Republicans were wrong, and that is a hypocrisy on their part, because they didn't have to vote for it, they just had to allow it to go to the floor.
Well, I understand that.
So there were a lot of procedural delays.
Correct,
So he just refused for it to go before the Senate.
correct,
McConnell did,
correct,
which is his choice.
correct. And that's where my point I was
Leader of the
making
Senate.
earlier. Correct,
Right? But then again, so he's choosing to not do that now.
correct.
And that's where the left is angry.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, ironically, it's not called the McConnell rule. It's actually called the Biden rule.
Exactly.
So, and this is real. Look it up, the Biden rule. Every nominee gets a committee hearing. Every nominee gets a committee vote. And every nominee gets an up or down Senate vote, even in an election year. It's a Biden rule.
Correct. You know, actually, I have a little clip I want to play on that and let you guys listen to this, because this is something I just found out. Why the Biden rule doesn't apply in 2020. Let's hear what they have to say about it.
The death of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, putting the Supreme Court front and center in the 2020 election campaign. As both sides gear up for a bitter confirmation battle. So we're coming close to more mobilized voters on the left or the right. So Dan, I guess the first question is this so going to be such a dominant issue in the court that it's going to put COVID-19 and the economy on the back burner?
No, I think what it does is makes the front burner very, very crowded. Look, we know what Joe Biden's election strategy was going to be at this point going forward. You can summarize it in 2 words: Donald Trump, right? Joe Biden was running against Donald Trump, his persona, and the idea that he was unfit to be president, and relatedly his management of the coronavirus. Well, I think that strategy has just been completely overthrown here this past weekend with Justice Ginsburg's death. Now the Supreme Court is clearly an issue. Control of the Senate is an issue as it relates to the future of the courts. Law and order itself has become an issue. Violence in American cities. Coronavirus is still there, the economy, but I think the other issue that comes into play is the nature of the Democratic Party. Joe Biden has been doing a kind of a funny scorpion stance, trying to keep the idea that it's Bernie Sanders' party at arm's length. But the more we talk about the future of the Supreme Court, the more we talk about activist judging, and I expect Donald Trump will, then I think this election becomes much more about party than it does about personality.
Yeah, Kim, I guess so. Maybe the chances of ticket splitting just fell quite a bit. But I want to push back into your observation in the previous block about who this helps, because I take your point. It could help Republicans, has in the past. But why wouldn't this simply mobilize the left to say, you know what, we can't afford to stay home. We really need to get out and retake the Senate, because if they do confirm somebody, then we need to pack the court so that we don't lose the court in 2021. Why wouldn't that work for the Democrats?
Well, because I think the left is already motivated in that regard, just in terms of Donald Trump, as Dan just explained. But I think that this is a different issue for Republicans. The reason this always
We're going to stop it there because that's a key point. And the thing is, you want to control everything, just maybe you should start doing the right thing where the people want to vote for you and then you get in control. Right now, the Republicans have the Senate and the presidency. The Democrats control the House. The House does not get to control because the Democrats got control, has no say-so over the presidential election. I mean, not presidential election, the
Supreme Court.
the appointments. It's the Constitution clearly states, correct, and listen, it's the Senate's job. It's not the House's job. Even though Nancy Pelosi thinks it's her job because she thinks she's the queen of America and she can do what she wants to do and she don't have to be accountable for it. But at the end of the day, Nancy, you're not. You're not the Queen of America. You do not control this country. You may think you control this country, but you don't.
Well, so now we've cleared that up. It's really the Biden rule and not the McConnell rule, correct?
Correct.
Right, and everything, it's always the opposite of what they say. That's just the way it is with the left and the media.
Correct. And, you know, the Biden rule, I did look it up, and it was actually created after Scalise's death when Biden was a senator. And, you know, so actually in 20, Scalise's election year death triggered a, I'm sorry, it wasn't
Yeah.
here. It wasn't.
No, it was before.
It was before.
Yeah,
that,
it was before. It's definitely before. I
Yes.
was wondering.
Yes,
Okay.
I got that
Yeah.
wrong. Sorry about that.
No,
That was
that
my
was before.
misinformation. I looked at it wrong. But it was when he was a senator, not after Scalise's death.
That's right. That timeline doesn't fit because he was VP.
Right, at that
So it
time.
was before he was the vice president.
Correct.
So it goes way back, but it's still there. It's his rule.
Correct.
Don't kill off Scalise, you mean Scalia.
Scalia.
Yes. Thank you for Dave over here. You're a good man.
So, I mean, this is what's going on. We live in a country that, and we've talked to people we've seen, and being here in Washington, D.C., of course, it's a beautiful place. We went out and we got to go see, and, you know, I joke, and of course, here amongst us conservatives that's watching this, the ding dong, the witches did, the wicked witch, the witch, oh witch. But at the end of the day, you know, the Bible says that we should rejoice when the wicked is dead. And
when the wicked perish.
When the wicked perish. So, I mean, as Christians, we should be rejoicing because the wicked has gone, and she is wicked, very wicked. I mean, this woman was not considering when she allowed babies to die with abortion.
But if you think the Supreme Court was bad before, they're going to be ruthless now.
That's right. Exactly. So you get it, right? Ruthless, Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah.
Ruthless.
Well, anyway.
For the ones that, for our blonde audience that didn't get that right.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's not nice.
I know. Actually, I got a friend of mine. I know.
So let me ask you a question. What does the Bible say about justice?
That's right.
What does God say about justice? God set up one and pulls down another. It's up to him to appoint rulers.
That's right.
It's up to God. So do you listeners think that it was a coincidence that the Supreme Court Justice passed away one day prior to Rosh Hashanah? She really wanted to make it into the Rosh Hashanah, the new year. But the Lord said, no, you will not. And he took her home, or he took her out of the situation. She's no longer ruling over the Supreme Court.
Right.
She's 27 years she's been in there, going against the Constitution. And
yes.
She says she stands for women's rights, but as a woman, I don't appreciate someone leading me to the slaughter, someone leading what God put in my womb to the slaughter. That is not somebody that I would stand with as a leader as a woman.
Correct.
At all. Not a godly woman, that's for sure. So anyway.
If you study up on the scientific process behind conception, it's a miracle that any baby is ever conceived. So people say, well, what about in cases of rape and incest and so forth? God's hand is still in it. He knows if the sparrow falls to the ground. He knows how many hairs you have on your head, Clay, in case you're losing any of it. So he knows when a baby's conceived, and we're saying, no, either there is no God or God made a mistake with this one. I've had people ask me, what would happen? What if your daughter got raped? Wouldn't you want to allow her to have an abortion? Okay, if my daughter gets pregnant, she has my grandchild. I don't care who the father is. That's my grandchild. So are you telling me that since my child has been through a horrible process, therefore I should kill my grandchild? Of course not. Children don't come into existence without the hand of God.
That's right. And there's a reason. At the end of the day, God has his hands in this, and God determines who comes into this earth and who don't. It's not our determination to determine who comes into this earth or not. And God may put that, God forbid by rape, and look, we don't condone rape at any cost or form, but if someone perhaps gets raped, and look, my heart goes out to them women that have been raped, but at the end of the day, and get pregnant, that baby should, now if she chooses not to take that baby, that's her choice, and keep the baby, but give it to someone. There are many people out there that would love to take that child off her hands, that parents that just can't have children, that would love to take that child off their hands.
Well, many of you don't know this, but I have stake in this game. So I was conceived of a rape, and this has been my story for my entire life. And my mother chose to have me. She chose to give me life. If it were up to Justice Supreme Ginsburg, I would have been aborted and I wouldn't be here today. And so I personally have stake in this. And I thank God that I have life.
And guys, talking about this, Friday is her birthday.
Yeah.
She's going to be 29 years old on Friday.
Wow. I would have thought about 25.
Right. How ironic is that we're celebrating my life on Friday and having this conversation? So it's all the Lord. So,
yes,
you know, I interviewed my 10-year-old, and Dawson, he's a very smart 10-year-old. He's raised in a Christian family.
Yes.
He didn't want to disrespect the viewing of Justice Ginsburg, but even a 10-year-old didn't want to. Yeah, I could get that for you. Even Dawson didn't feel like he wanted to be a part of what the viewing was and be a part of that. Let me go ahead and see if I can find that for y'all.
Right. Well, while you're doing that, let me throw this in here because I just seen this, that House majority, I'm having a Biden moment, guys, again. Lack of sleep from traveling here has just been, and getting ready for the show. So House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy, Republican California, threatened on Wednesday to introduce a motion to oust Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Democrat California, as she attempts to bring forth a second round of impeachment charges as a way to prevent the Senate from confirming President Trump's Supreme Court nominee. See, here we go with the left again. The left is, okay, we're going to do it my way, or we're going to disrupt everything we can. The same way they're doing it with the riots, the same thing they're doing with the Black Lives Matter, the same thing they're doing with burning and looting and murdering. Of course, that's what Black Lives Matter stands for, BLM, burning, looting and murder. So we're going to jump back to this. I just wanted to start this conversation, but we're going to come back to this in just a second. But we're going to listen to what this kid, this is a 10-year, it floored me. He made me look dumb. And it's hard to do that, guys. No, I'm joking.
I wish you could see this. I will post this interview on our Liberty or Lockdown.live page so you can actually see the interview with Dawson, okay?
Exactly. This is an intelligent job.
You can listen to him right here, right now. Tragic. All right, this is my son Dawson, Huckabee. We are out here. Where are we? At the Supreme Court in Washington. Tragic. Yes, she is a Supreme Court justice for 27 years, and I know you don't know much about her because you're only 10. But she supported something we don't support, right? She supported the women's right to choose whether they want to take a life in the womb, and we don't support that, do we? And that's a big deal.
No.
And so that's why Dawson doesn't really want to do this video, because he doesn't approve of the things that she approves of. Dawson, how do you feel, without being negative or ugly, about the Justice Supreme Court's passing, and that Trump will be able to elect a new Supreme Court justice, and possibly a more conservative one that would believe in life? How do you feel about that?
Like, it might be a better change that have someone being
Yes, somebody new with different views.
Then her ways were good. There's nothing bad about them. They just have to walk around.
And you're a Christian? Yes, all right. Well, so anyway, do you appreciate that Trump is going to name a new Supreme Court justice before the election, or do you want Trump to wait? Right now. Right. Would you prefer a Christian or a non-Christian? Someone who loves God or someone who doesn't love God? Yeah.
Christian
That
conservative
supports life.
person.
Good for you, Dawson.
I mean,
Okay. Well, thank you for your time, Dawson.
this right here is, and what's crazy, I mean, that is just of God. That's God speaking through that child. Because not long, within seconds after that child spoke, he got sick.
Yeah, you did. You're right.
He got sick. And I just thought of that. That just actually hit me.
He
And
got
so-
very sick.
So that is an attack from the devil.
Yeah.
Because with that, God spoke and used that child and Satan, because you know Satan.
And he came down. He had a severe migraine for the first time ever. He's never had one. He was getting ready to vomit. Tears are coming out his eyes. His feet were coming from under his legs. He was very, very weak and lethargic. He became very pale. So you see, it's a spiritual warfare we're fighting here.
Right. And you know, yesterday same thing happened with me coming back. I got sick for a little bit, and we're being attacked because God don't want us to do this show out here.
God?
And, I mean, not God. Satan. Again, that's another Biden moment, guys.
Lord
I'm
have
sorry.
mercy.
Satan.
Anyway, the
does
Lord
not
is
want us
with
to do
us, and
Yes.
we're stronger because He dwells inside of
I'm
us.
glad you caught
So,
that.
Can I point out something?
Please.
Dawson said about the tragic death. I don't think it was a tragic death. Guess what? People die.
Exactly.
She was 87 years old. Now, the tragedy would be if she doesn't know the Lord and she did not go to be with him.
Yeah.
And I did not know her, and I'm not going to pass any judgments on her based on her actions.
Well, we can only judge by their fruits, but we
Right.
can't judge by soul.
But we're all going to die. Yeah, guys, if you're listening to this, you say, oh, that evil person died. Here's a newsflash for you. You are going to die.
Right.
I will probably do so within the next 15 or 20 years. I know that, but I'm trusting in Jesus Christ for my eternal destiny and salvation. What's that?
We'll hope a lot longer.
Well, it doesn't matter because I'll go to be with him. And if you're watching us, then you need to make sure with Jesus Christ, by giving him your life, your heart, that when you die, and your time will come, that when you die, it won't be a tragic death. It'll be a glorious death. It'll be an opportunity to go be with your Lord and Savior.
and it's interesting that the 10-year-old used those words, tragic death, because he does move in the prophetic.
Right.
And so that is something interesting that you
Well,
brought up.
I'm not going to die. My body might pass away, but I'm going to live forever. None of us are going to die.
Well, that's true.
Because our bodies may pass away and perish, but our spirits will live forever. And you know, the Bible says in John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that's whosoever believeth in him shall not perish,
But have everlasting life.
but have everlasting life.
Yeah.
And I know I have that everlasting life. And we're going to talk more about that everlasting life tomorrow, because we're going to have right here at 8 o'clock Eastern time, 7 o'clock Central time, we're going to have a Bible study. And we're going to celebrate. We're going to pray for our nation tomorrow night. We're going to pray for our president. We're going to pray for people, for God to bring us together. Because we're living in a time and in a country where we're not together. We're divided. You know, our country is so divided. And the devil is working overtime. And let me tell you something, guys. He's not working overtime for the people, the lost people, the sinners, the people that are going to bust our water. He's working overtime to stop us, Christians.
He knows his time is short.
Exactly.
So he has great fury, as it says in Revelation.
Exactly.
Great fury to perform? Or
Oh, yeah,
great fury
to try
because
to
his
drag-
time is
To try to
to
drag
drive as
people
many
with him.
people with him.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's his job,
So
to take as many people with him.
invite your friends tomorrow night. Invite everyone you know to be here, to listen. We're going to be here in Washington, D.C. doing this live. Then we're going to be actually Friday and Saturday at the Jonathan Kahn event. And we're going to be going live also from there, so you guys can join us live from that event.
Yeah. Well, real quick, so Ginsburg was never going to retire early, right?
No.
She had no intentions on retiring. Did you ever hear her say that?
Well, I heard her say that if Biden won, then she was going to leave. She was getting old. I did hear that, but she would
Do you
have.
remember her saying when President Trump was elected the first time that she was going to stay there for 8 years
Right.
until the next president?
Exactly.
Right, or for 4 years until the next president election?
I
Exactly.
saw a cute little cartoon image on Facebook where she was saying, I hope I don't live to see a second Trump term. And Jesus says, okay, I'm giving you your wish.
That's right.
And she sure did, that's right.
Well,
So wait, let me say this. This is a very prophetic viewpoint here. She passed away 45 days before the election. And President Trump is the 45th president. Isn't that interesting?
that's
Yeah.
right.
And some people will say, well, nah, it's not 45 days in the USA, it's 46. But God created the whole world, not a little part of the world. So it is actually 45 days in Israel and in Australia.
Okay.
Yes, isn't that interesting? Justice Ginsburg passed away one day before the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah 5781, which is the Feast of Trumpets. And in the Bible, the word trumpets is trump, trumps, right? Trumpet, trumps, the Feast of Trumps. Are we not seeing the prophetic unfold in front of us, and that we have cause to be rejoicing that God is speaking through this?
That's right.
In other ways, we need to start rejoicing and praying and covering Trump, President Trump up. That's what we're doing here. We are praying for our president. We're committed. We came from New Orleans, Louisiana, to come to Washington, D.C., to put our feet on this ground and to begin to pray in the spirit, to bind up, cast out, and remove every satanic force that's coming against this against the United States of America.
Yes.
This is what we do as saints of God, because we are going to celebrate the Feast of Trump.
That's right. And tomorrow
Amen.
night, we're going to do that, especially tomorrow night. We're going to have a special guest, Sharon.
Yes,
Bowen.
right. So tomorrow evening, we'll have two special guests. We're going to be bringing in my dear friend in evangelical, pastor, teacher. Her father was Brother Dioram Bolin, who passed away 2 years ago. We miss him dearly. We miss you, Brother Dioram. And so Sharon will be here tomorrow, and she's going to bring a special guest, and he is coming representing Jonathan Cahn's event. So stay tuned for our special guest from Jonathan Cahn's event and Sharon Bolin Yerby.
Exactly. I just thought of this song because, Jesus is coming soon. And there is a song called Soon and Very Soon, we are going to see the King. Soon and very soon, we are going to see the King. Soon and very soon, we are going to see the King. Hallelujah, hallelujah, we are going to see the King. Soon and very soon, we're going to see our King. And he is coming. Jesus, I cannot wait for the day that Jesus comes and just bursts right through the clouds. And the saints, we're going to be united with our loved ones.
Oh,
What
a beautiful
What
day.
a beautiful day.
Seven Mama's going to see you. And
What a day that will be.
So if you know the Lord, you're going to be reunited with your family. But what I'm concerned about is family members who don't know the Lord.
Yes.
And that's what the event on Saturday is all about. It coincides with Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. It's a national day of repentance. So we need to repent. I need to repent for myself, for my family, because I want my family to be saved.
That's right. And it's being saved is just, it's a life-changing event, guys. A lot of people think, being saved that, it's you can't hang out with your friends, you can't have a good time. No, let me tell you something. As a Christian, we have more fun than we do in the world if you're in the ballrooms drinking and smoking and doping up. And, when you live in a world where you're so drunk and you don't know what you did, the good time you had last night, what fun is that? But as a Christian, when you rejoice in the Lord with other brothers and sisters in Christ, and that's what we're doing here, and we're having a good time.
In my days before I became a Christian, I would spend Friday night hugging a toilet thinking, it just don't get no better than this. Yes, it does.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
You think that when you're living in that lifestyle and you don't have the Lord,
Right.
but you have no idea how wonderful it is to surrender your life and your will to Jesus Christ and invite him into your heart. It's an amazing adventure being a Christian.
I want to go back to what I started earlier, if you guys don't mind me jumping back to this, with Nancy Pelosi threatening the impeachment. We did start on that, and of course we got back to the topic we was on, but Pelosi has declined to rule out impeachment as an option to stop Trump's court pick from being confirmed on the bench, arguing that Democrats would use every arrow in the quiver to block the eventual nominee. Let me tell you something. I wish they would try to impeach Trump, because that will be the devastation of the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, the Democratic Party, if they try to do this a second time, it will destroy the Democratic Party.
Because every member of the House of Representatives is up for re-election.
Exactly. Yeah, Congress gets reelected every year.
Every 2 years
Every
for the
2 years,
House,
sorry.
every 6 years for the Senate.
Exactly.
Well, 1/3 every 2 years.
Yeah, for the Senate.
Yeah.
But in the House, every 2 years, they're constantly working for reelection. And so this is Nancy Pelosi's job's up. And for our friends in California that are watching and listening, our conservative friends, we've met some today, a beautiful couple that we met today, and they're going to be actually here tomorrow joining us.
Yes.
They're Christians, and we're going to.
What, Kim and Erica?
Yes.
Aaron
Yes,
or Erica?
Erica.
Kim and Erica.
Kim and Erica. We wanted to get the clips today. We just didn't have time to get them on. We'll put them on our Facebook page, guys. You can go back and watch the clips and the interviews we did. But, for our friends in California that are listening to this, guys, take back your state. California is such a beautiful state. And, it just disgusts me to see what's happening to the state. The San Francisco, my grandma used to live in Pleasant Hill, which is just right across the bay. My mom and me, we would go when we were kids, me and my mom, needless to say, I said it backwards, would go out to, Martha would get me.
My mom and I.
Yeah, my mom and I.
Your mom and them.
No, I'm from New Orleans, it's my mom and them. So we would go across, we would take the BART system in New Orleans not New Orleans, in San Francisco, and go through the bay to go out to San Francisco and go see the beauty that's out there. It's a beautiful, beautiful. Now it's tents and homelessness. They're crapping on the streets. I mean, it's just the feces, drugs, needles. It's not, it looks like downtown New Orleans.
And that's Pelosi's district.
Exactly. And that's
a crime. That's a crime. That is a crime. She should be convicted of a crime allowing that to happen in her district. That's criminal.
Exactly. And I mean,
they're not helping the homeless.
No, they're not.
They're creating a bigger crisis, because at the end of this, it's get rid of the middle class, and it's either wealthy or poor.
And it's going to be very few wealthy.
It's very few wealthy, and you and I won't be in that category if it's up to them. They won't want to sit down.
Free enterprise. I've been in free enterprise all my life. Network marketing. I've learned to build businesses and earn money myself. The Democrats don't want you thinking and making a living. They want you to depend on them. Oh, well, let us support you. Well, and I love the tool every year when a Republican president is up for a re-election. They love to scare our seniors, and the seniors believe this. Let me speak to our senior citizens a second out there, guys. And I know I'm going into a little rant, but I think we really need this. This is something a very important time that you guys need to understand. Don't listen. Trump cannot take away your Social Security. The Republican Senate cannot. That is not an entitlement. That would be theft. Theft, because that's your money you paid in. So don't let them lie to you and say that the only ones that are trying to steal your money is the Democrats. They're the ones that keep dipping into the Social Security and borrowing from it. And that's why this country is in so much debt. And it sickens me to see people on Social Security rather their disability or regular Social Security. And they're having to live on such little amount because that's, let's look at, this is where I'm going at, guys. I'm getting ahead of myself. Look at our senior citizens. And look at what's going on there and how most of our senior citizens that are living just off of Social Security, how they're struggling. Look at people that are living on, disabled people that are living on just Social Security. I think SSDI, if you didn't pay into the system enough money, then you get DI. It's like right under $800 a month. And you can't earn one extra dollar. For every $1 you earn, they take $2 away from you.
So here's the solution. Cross the border to Mexico, change your name, and come back in illegally.
Exactly.
And you get everything for free.
Exactly.
For free.
But my point is, let's touch on it. I like that. That's a good topic. But this is my point, guys. Do you want to live like that under a democratic government? Under a socialist government? Where you're just barely or really not making enough? I mean, where the whole country will be like San Francisco?
Talk about having your foot on somebody's neck.
Exactly.
That's how they're treating us.
Exactly.
Right? They're killing us. They're killing us.
And that's what they want. But yet, like they said, if you're illegal, because see, they're giving them everything now because they can easily take it away.
Let me throw in something here. I'm the child of an immigrant. My mom came from Honduras. She is a legal immigrant. She's a U.S. citizen. She was naturalized. She went through the process. She and her friends, who are also legal immigrants, don't have a whole lot of respect for those that have snuck in, are violating the law, and are getting much more than they are.
That's right.
Well, I've talked to people that are legal immigrants. I got Mexicans and Hispanic people that live near me, and they're Trump supporters because they came to this country the right way. They came here through a process. They worked hard. They busted their behinds to come here. So for what? For what? For someone to just walk across the border and get a handout? You know, this is the thing. An old friend of mine told me, Clayton, slavery was a test on the black man. It was a test. Because you know that slavery was from the Democratic Party. The North was Republicans, North, South, Democrats, slavery. And Abraham Lincoln was a Republican who freed the slaves. So the Democrats, at the end of the day, want everybody in slavery. And it's a thing called economic slavery. They destroy the economy like they're trying to do now. Destroy it. It's sickening for what's happening in this country. Sickening. And the people that are sitting home and allowing this, the silent majority, the Christians, should be ashamed of themselves. Because we have a duty as American citizens to get out there. We put them in office, we take them out of office. And guys, if you do not vote, you should not have a voice in this election. Because that's your duty. It's your constitutional duty to vote. It's not just a right, it's a duty to vote. You know, like jury duty. It's your duty to go serve on a jury duty. No, that's not a duty.
The privilege.
That's a privilege. It's a duty to go vote because men and women who served in the military died for that right for you to be able to go vote.
Yeah, so make sure that you do go out and vote on November 3rd.
Yes.
Make sure that, you know, your vote, every vote counts.
Exactly.
And don't let the left deceive you into this mail-in ballot voting. Go out and vote.
Go to the polls.
Go to the polls and vote.
Exactly. You guys can tell I'm a very passionate person. I get high-strung sometimes. Well, they can tell when I get aggravated, I get irritated, I get very high-strung. But at the end of the day, you know, I love everyone. I'll give people the shirt off my back. But one thing that irritates me, and I cannot deal with it, is incompetence. And this is what's happening here in America. We have people that are just becoming incompetent. And it's a shame that we're living in a system that they're just allowing people to become a bunch of students. It's a shame.
Well, it all goes back to a bigger plan. It's all biblical. This is a biblical proportion, and it leads straight to the book of Revelations.
Yes, it does.
And so we have to wake up and see what's going on, really be a part of what the Lord is doing. I know God's going to He's going to bless us, and He's going to have His hand on us, but we cannot participate in the things that, even on the right, there's major wickedness on the right.
Yes.
I'm a conservative Republican. I'm the president of the Women's Republican Club of New Orleans. I've been in this for many, years, and I've seen the injustice on the right as well. Okay, we have a lot of Republicans in name only, but they get into there, and they are not true Republicans. They do not represent me as a conservative Republican. And so what the left has done now is that they've actually exposed those rhinos on the right, which I love that. So now we know who they are, and from the ground up, from the local parties on up, we have to vote them out.
Right, exactly.
We have to do our part, and we cannot be the solid majority anymore. We have to speak up now.
No. And I'm a registered Republican, but I kind of abandoned the Republican Party because the Republican Party has become no different than the Democratic Party. Again, my old
but they're for life, and I agree with their platforms. So
I do too.
They're not the same. They're not the same.
Well,
If you go by the
let me finish, if you don't mind. That I vote because morally the Republicans stand. But a lot of your Democrats, as Martha just said, that are Republican by name only. An old friend of mine said, Clayton, the problem here in America is, and this has become so much more, is what's the difference between us and Russia? Russia has one party. We have two. But a lot of the Republicans are becoming more to the center, and you can't tell the difference between the left and the right number. And we need to take that party back. We need to put the Constitution back in the party. We need to move back to our original values.
That's right.
And the value, that's why I vote Republican, because of the values, the pro-life, as an American, I have a right to be an American, and keeping the Constitution, the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, all the way through. That's what the Republican stands for, and values, family values.
Yes, it does. We stand for family values. We stand for life and justice. And there's a lot of things that the Republican Party stands for that the Democrats do not.
Correct.
I personally do not support the LGBTQP movement, movement.
No.
But I do have people in my life that do live a life that are gay, and I love them unconditionally. So when I say I don't support the movement, I don't support the movement, not the individual.
We're supposed to
not the individual. I love the individual,
and it's their right as an American.
They can choose what they want to choose. Yeah. But it's not their right to impose their choices and make them into law, where I have to go against my Christian beliefs and say that it's okay, when biblically it's not. And that's when we as Christians have to stand up and speak up against it.
And there are churches out there that will marry two men or two women, but there are churches out there that don't want to. Don't force the churches that it violates their religion. It violates. That's where I have a problem with. When two men go to a church, they don't go to the church that recognizes the LGBTQP.
I put P on it because they're really pushing to make pedophilia legal now.
And
especially in California. It's already gone before. I think the House, I read an article on it the other day, that they're going to try to make pedophilia legal.
Well, did you see, I think it was in Austin, Texas, and guys, please excuse what I'm about to say because it's sickening, but this is something that passed in Austin, Texas. Austin, Texas is now wanting to teach second and third graders about anal sex. That's sickening.
Why do they need to learn anything about sex when they're in the second grade?
They're
Right.
babies.
Exactly.
Their minds are, because if they get them at a young age and they pervert them when they're young, then they'll go that way the rest of their
Yes.
life.
Right.
So it's really perversion. They want to put perversion on these children. And that's why they're fighting for pedophilia. It's a perversion. It's a sick, satanic, demonic perversion. And we have to be voices for our children. We have to stand up and fight for them.
Exactly.
We can't sit back and allow this to take place anymore.
No, we can't.
I mean, you and I'm in a situation where I'm fighting for a little boy's voice right now in Louisiana. Justice for Chase.
Yes.
And that's Justice for FOR Chase, CHASELA, Louisiana. Justice for Chase, Louisiana. Go to the page. Go support what we're doing there and help us raise funds for Chase's mother, Brooke, because
Yes.
he's in the fight for his life.
Exactly. And he's put in a position to where, he has sent, and, he was taking out of his mother's hands and
Loving
putting in
arms.
the pedophile's hands.
And put in the
and-
hands of these people who are now trying to come up against us legally, and they use the court systems to do it.
Exactly. And
It's sickening, and they think that if they threaten us, that they'll silence us, that they can take everything from us, and they can use a gazillion lawyers. They'll use the judges, they'll use the attorneys, the court systems, all to fight for what's wrong.
Exactly.
And not justice. And what they need to know is that Jesus dwells inside of me. And anytime you come up against somebody who's a child of God, you come up against God.
Exactly. And they actually sent an email to Liberty of Lockdown. Last week we got a email from a lawyer stating that we had to cease and desist on talking about this family.
Pedophiles,
this church
pedophilia, the church that's next door. The story is so deep, so dark. It's entangled with two different churches, possibly a Catholic priest, allegedly a church next door. I have to use the word allegedly so they don't sue me. But even if you sue me, vengeance will be the Lord. So
I say
it's
this,
gonna come
I'm
back.
gonna keep talking about suing, what you gonna get, my dirty underwear?
Yeah, well, it's not you that are coming after me, it's me.
But I'm gonna talk about
So,
it, is what I'm saying.
yeah.
So they'll come after me.
Yeah.
I represent Joseph Fairbanks Jr. I'm writing about the false, harassing, and defamatory statements that you have posted and continue to post online about Mr. Fairbanks. You have repeatedly asserted that Mr. Fairbanks is a pedophile and a satanic, has sexually abused his grandson, and improperly influenced a court proceeding to obtain custody for his son of his grandson, CB. And they use the word CB. We're going to use that word too. We don't want to use the child's name.
Chase is his first name.
Chase, yeah.
And his mother's on Facebook, and it's all over there. His mother has released all of this because she couldn't get justice.
Exactly. All of these statements are false.
They're saying they're false.
They're saying they're false.
They're saying everything is false.
But yet, how does a 2-year-old know words like orgy?
Or porn.
Porn, yes, and will take an elephant's trunk and do vulgar things with them at 2 years old.
Yeah, 2.5 years old.
If he's not taught that.
Yeah, performing. Yeah, the child is doing things that no baby should be doing. So, and we know that the time frame that it happened was when the baby was with his father and grandfather. So
right.
There's no, we're not here to destroy that family. That family destroyed a child.
Exactly.
So we're just here to be a voice for Chase and for his mother, Brooke Beninati. And we want the justice system in Jefferson Parish to allow the evidence to be absolutely
back to what we talked about
permissible.
Due process.
Due process.
Doing a truly investigation.
Yeah.
And go to trial.
Allow the FBI to do an investigation.
Exactly.
That was also hindered. Allow OCS to do an investigation. That was hindered.
Yes.
Allow the hearing officer to present all evidence. That was suppressed.
Exactly.
Allow the child, everything to go forward. The grandfather works for the Jefferson Parish Courthouse actually independently for over 40 years. And he may not work for Jefferson Parish. He may work for New Orleans independently, but he's a court reporter within the Jefferson Parish. They hire that independent company. So he knows the hearing officers, he knows the judges.
Yes.
And that's why they took the pen, unconstitutionally,
Yes.
took the child from his mother and handed him over to his abusers. And she's not been given any rights. Her rights were cut completely. This is unconstitutional.
Exactly. And, you know, she did nothing wrong. And if she was an unfit mother and they can prove it, that's a different
They
story.
can't
But
prove
they can't
anything.
prove it.
No, they have nothing on her.
And that's the thing. So guys, we got 6 more minutes and we still have a lot to talk about. So we want to, not that this is so important.
Yeah, we wanted to
this-
get that out there.
we
So
wanted to get this-
we bless you, Chase, and we bless you, bro.
Yes, and guys, so please don't take this the wrong way.
Pray
but
for her and support them.
we have Dave over here that has some numbers that he's going to discuss. And guys, with the COVID, we want to close out today's show and talk a little bit about the COVID-19, the Democrat virus is what I call it now. I don't call it that. I've actually sent an email to Trump and corrected him on the Wuhan virus.
Yeah.
It's no longer the Wuhan virus, it's the Democrat virus.
That's good.
Yes.
So what do you
And
have for us, Dave?
Well, actually, I was first going to give you a couple of sentences relating to socialism versus capitalism. Thomas Jefferson, you remember him?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He said, a government big enough to give you everything you want is strong enough to take everything you have. And Edward Langley said, what this country needs are more unemployed politicians. And then this one is wonderful. It says, the government cannot give to anybody anything that the government does not first take from somebody else.
right.
And finally, when half of the people get the idea that they do not have to work because the other half is going to take care of them, and when the other half gets the idea that it does no good to work because somebody else is going to get what they work for, that is the beginning of the end of any nation. That's communism.
Yes.
Okay, so we're up in Washington, D.C., and so we're thinking more on a national level than normally. But I was thinking last night, I did a little bit of research, and in the news there has been the statement over and over that there have been about 200,000 U.S. deaths from COVID. Well, guys, you know what? We all die. Human beings die. In the United States, there are generally about 20,000 people that die every single week. It's about 250,000 every single month. So that's per month. COVID has been going on for 7 months. In that amount of time, there's been about 200,000 U.S. deaths as compared to the number that the total number of deaths, which is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 million. So 200,000 out of 3 million, it's not really that exorbitant of a death rate. And if you look on the CDC's website, Centers for Disease Control, they keep track of the number of people that die every week. And, you know, there's a certain number that die every week. But anything beyond that is considered excess deaths. Well, we're from Louisiana, so it's particularly interesting to me. The number of excess deaths in Louisiana right now is 0. No extra people are dying beyond the number that normally do every month anyway. And you know what the number of excess deaths in the United States of America is? It's also 0. So we've had 200,000 deaths over 7 months, but that fits into the number of people that die every month anyway.
Exactly. Well, I'm coming up with some numbers real quick. Dave, so elaborate that real quick because I'm working on the world numbers. Elaborate.
This is the nation, not the world.
Yeah, but I'm working on both.
Okay. So, well, I'm not sure what you want me to elaborate on, but at least in the state of Louisiana.
Just 30 more seconds.
Okay, in the state of Louisiana, it's basically over. If you go to our libertyorlockdown.live website and you click on more over at the upper right corner, you'll see Mr. Prentice, that's me. And I've been compiling these statistics for about 2 months now. And Louisiana is down to an extremely low number of positive tests. The state, out of those that get tested, about 3.4% of the tests come up positive, and 96.6, something like that, come out negative. Oh, yeah, this person's not sick. And even those that are positive tests, they're not dead, they're not dying, they're not hospitalized. They just happen to have a positive test. And the mortality rate, if you're over 70, 2/3 of the deaths have been in those who are over 70. So certainly, if you're over 70, you should exercise caution and take whatever precautions you have to. But if you're under 70 in Louisiana, the mortality rate, if you get a positive test, is 1.16%. And remember, most people don't get a positive test. 96% get a negative test. Of those that do get a positive, only 1.16% should expect to die, which is about, I believe, 58 out of a million.
Right. Well, this is the thing here. I'm going to show you, give some numbers, and it's okay if we go over a minute or two. But here we go, right here, 32,000. We're going to look at the world numbers real quick. 32,083,595 cases.
Cases, not deaths.
Yeah. Now, out of that, 981,244 people have died worldwide out of 7 billion people. And this is supposed to be so deadly.
Yeah.
And then there's been recovered 23,667,339 people. So you take the deaths, because you can't count them as cases because they're no longer active because they have disease. So, and subtract the recovered from that also, and you come across with 7,435,010 cases. So that's only what, about 1% worldwide?
7 million out of 7 billion is 1/10 of 1%.
1/10 of 1%. That's why he's the mathematician. We have Dave here because he's better with math than I am. I use a calculator for everything. Okay, let's look back to the United States now. We have 7,139,000 cases, 355, minus 206,000 deaths, 585. Subtract that from the recoveries, and also 4,397,307. And you have a total of active cases in the United States out of 300 million people, 2,535,460 cases. So we're a lot. The United States is the largest population. That's why, it's centered here in the United States. I mean, it's pretty much a big majority. But I mean, 2,535,460 active cases out of 330 million people in the United States. Now, let's look at Louisiana. Louisiana has 162,645. This is where I want to show you the people are being lied to.
Yeah.
Because this is sickening.
Yeah.
Because you have like John Bell Edwards
Yeah, that's our governor in Louisiana.
New Orleans mayor that has a city shut down.
Yes.
Over this, 162,645.
Right.
Out of that, we had 5,207 deaths. 149,640 people have recovered. Subtract those numbers, and you have 7,598 active cases in Louisiana, and they're shut down Louisiana.
That's out of 4.6 million
out
citizens.
Out of 4.6. So what is the percentage of that, Dave?
Small.
Very small.
Yeah, less than 1%. Less than 0.5%.
Well,
Yeah.
and the governor came up with a standard where if you have 100 positive tests per 100,000 people, which is a ridiculously stringent standard, there are 8 parishes that are below that number, including the city of New Orleans.
Yes.
They've got 99 out of 100,000, not even 100. And the mayor will not loosen her tight clamp down on the city.
Right. And I mean, it's
Queen Latoya.
It's just sickening what's happening. And I mean, that's what happens. That's what happens when you win a Democratic rule, guys. Remember what we talked about earlier? Look at what's going on with these Democrat ran states. Look at New Orleans. Look at San Francisco. Look at here in DC. We just right down the street from this hotel, we're passing it. The homelessness here. I mean, there's a couple tents camped right outside of our hotel.
And you walk down the street here, everybody outside has got masks on.
Outside.
How do I look now? Not inside, outside. And if you don't
Outside.
have a mask, they're gonna look at you funny and fuss at you.
None of us have
Me
masks
and
on.
my cameraman today was attacked by another guy.
Oh.
Well, he was verbally attacked,
Criticized.
calling us names and stuff, and get away from me. I'm old. You know what? I have a right to be here. This is, and I told him this.
They've lost their minds.
Yes, this is
Based
America.
on a lie.
Exactly.
And we were
A
out.
Democratic hoax.
Yes,
It's a hoax.
yes, it is.
It is a hoax. And people say, well, 200,000 people died. So you say it's not real? It's a hoax, people. Another Democratic hoax.
Exactly. Enough to destroy the economy, to harm Donald Trump.
All about the presidency, all about
Yeah.
2020 election. It has
Exactly.
nothing to do with COVID.
What
Because influenza, is it influenza's killed more?
Yes.
Yeah.
Influenza,
Well, we've looked at that, and actually, they have.
is it creeping
it's
up
less-
on it?
No, COVID has surpassed,
Influenza, and we
Influenza,
still have
but-
4 more months. So
but it has surpassed it, but it's still not as deadly as they claim it is.
It's not the Black Plague.
It's not the Black Plague. And I mean, it's in a lot of these, I mean, CDC just came out and said 96% of the people that have died from COVID didn't really die just from COVID alone. Not saying that they didn't die from COVID, but that wasn't the causing factor. It was underlying health issues. It was other things that killed them. 96%. So was it 94%? 94%. Because yeah.
They had comorbidities.
Right. But you catch a cold, and have underlying health condition. You cut your finger, it can turn into a staph infection and you could die. If you have underlying health conditions, if you're diabetic, if you have these issues.
another thing that we need to look into, and we will do this because it's something that I read, and it's been debunked, but I don't believe these things that have been debunked. When you pull up a lot of things on Google, you start using DuckDuckGo. So I'm going to have to do a little research on this. But Dr. Mokovitz, if you know her, who worked with Bill Gates for many, many, many years, said there's tests that there's a strand of HIV in the COVID. Have you heard that?
No.
Okay.
I haven't either.
So I have multiple times. So it's something that we have to look into, okay? And it's actually in her new book too. And she talks about this. And then I kind of put the pieces together because I heard her saying that. Then I also read an article about something else where a lot of the elderly were dying from this, right? 70 years plus. So I'm wondering if it has anything to do with that strand that she was talking about.
Correct.
And it's something we should look into. Not saying it is. I'm saying let's do some research and let's see if this is actually, in fact, real.
Exactly.
Is there an HIV strand in the COVID that is killing off the elderly?
Well,
It's something worth researching.
on Friday afternoon, me and Huck is going to do and Dave, of course, I'm leaving Dave out here, but we're going to do a special Friday morning at noon. We're going to talk about the Moderna.
Moderna.
I can never pronounce it.
Just remember mod RNA.
We're going to talk to you more about that.
Moderna.
She has been really, pouncing on this and really studying it, and we're going to talk.
We'll talk about it.
Yes, we definitely need to
But
talk.
there's things that, you know what, we need your help to research too. So when we say research something, go and look for it.
Yes, help us. Now, I will say this, the flu as of 2019 took 61,000 deaths. Now, the bad strain of flu that was, I think, in 2018, when the deadly flu was, that was the H1N1, that there killed more people than this.
Yeah.
There were more deaths than the coronavirus. But you didn't see us shutting down the country and shutting down the world.
It wasn't an election year.
Exactly. And that's the whole key. That is the whole key. Guys, wake up and smell the coffee. Wake up.
And stop looking at people if they cough like something's wrong with them.
Yeah.
It's
no.
just a normal thing, right? People do that. They cough, they catch
it's-
allergies, they have stuff. We have to start being more conscious of what's going on here.
Exactly. And so we're going to close with this, guys, because I know we're 8 minutes over.
Yes, let's close.
And this is the thing, is just stop listening to the liberal media and start listening to God. I'm not saying we're gonna always tell you the truth.
But we're gonna try very
We're gonna
hard
try
to
very
give you
hard.
everything that we have.
And there are gonna be times we're wrong.
And when we don't know something, we're gonna tell you, please go research it.
And if we mistakenly give you misinformation,
Please correct us.
yes. And if we find out or you correct us, we will retract it and come back
We'll
and
come
say
back and
we
say,
were
hey, look, we gave the wrong information, and you know what? This is what we've learned. So,
exactly.
So anyway,
So again, thank you for joining us here with Liberty on Lockdown. I'm Clay.
I'm Huck.
I'm Dave.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.
The Lord bless you.
Hi, I'm Clay.
And this is Huck.
Join us for Liberty on Lockdown,
Thursday at 5 p.m. right here on WGSN 990 AM.
or conservative news and conversation about local and national topics.
We're here to fight for our freedoms and to remind you that America is a constitutional republic.
Well, after it's over, hit end
So listen
broadcast.
to us every Thursday at
Not
5
yet.
p.m. for Liberty on Lockdown on WGSO 990.
Now tune in to Clay and Huck.